Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And it is once again time to do the tier list update for the month of December of 2024. And this will include the new Festive Memories Christmas meta. So we've got two protectors, we got the one free to play, and then we have a couple skill fusions, and then Shizu is already placed on this list, and we'll have to re-rank her, and then Maribel, Momiji, and Violet. So let's I mean, this meta personally I didn't enjoy very much. This defense team was not very defensive, to put it that way. I don't appreciate the gimmick, and some of the skill requirements for this team are kind of wonky, and I don't particularly enjoy that either. But you had to make teams useful for themselves first. I get it, but at the same time, I didn't really like it. So that's just my personal opinion. But let's go ahead and get started with the protectors. Alright, so Protector Albus, stacking alt damage, giving you a barrier, passively resetting skill points. These are all things that is somewhat equivalent to what Maribel did when she came out. Stacking weakness strike, passively resetting, giving you guard and super guard. These are just two different damage negation mechanics. Super guard only works against normal attacks. Barriers work against everything, but you have a limited amount before they break, and then you're just open and free. Her stacking weakness strike had to be applied to people at the end of the turn, so you had to leave people up front to really benefit off of it. Albus alt damage is for everybody. I would make them roughly the same. They both have their, ups and downs as far as usefulness and viability, but they are almost the same character. They're played almost the same way. And I don't think that Albus, because she has barriers, puts her any higher than Maribel, who has super guard, because in some ways, one is better and one is worse, and it can go for both of them. So your super guard works the entire turn, but doesn't protect you against alts. The barrier works against everything, but if you only have one and you take like 3 alts, then you're dead. So there are ups and downs. I will admit that having her buff alt damage instead of doing the whole after turn weakness strike is a lot better, but I don't know if that's enough to push her, because if your barrier runs out, you are going to take damage. More normal damage. You would still take damage with Maribel, but it'd be like 20. You'd take 0, and then you'd take 10,000. So I think they're both relatively equal. People might want to argue that she goes up into very good. I don't know if she fits into the viability of these characters. Also, we're going to drop Trainee down. She's outlived her usefulness. Konosuba Rimuru has also outlived his usefulness. And Frey has outlived her usefulness. I don't think that these three characters really need to be up into the S tier anymore. They're way too old. You can't get Konosuba Rimuru anymore. Just giving crits for physical allies just isn't good enough now. And Trainee, like the Future Hand of Blues is cool. Defense down is meh. The 40 skill points is cool, but yeah, it's just not what we're looking for in the end of 2024 going into 2025 as far as good protectors are concerned. And then free to play Alice, she's only a barrier for Festive Memories. I think she gives you attack or something. I actually haven't done her showcase yet, and I don't think I will, but I know that she's not going to be very useful. She is limited to a Festive Memories team, which after next week, we're not going to get any more of those units. So she's just not it. Not it. Free-to-play Ritus is fine for the most part. She has an orb change that's unrestricted. It doesn't have a gauge increase, but it's got weakness resistance down, which does help, any team that she's on, for the nuking character at least. And then her barrier is only one character, but it goes to the person with the lowest HP. So it's not you're limited to Festive Memories units. It's just whoever's weak gets a barrier. And you know what? I think that makes her okay. Am I going to put her on a team because she has a barrier? No. Am I going to put her on a team solely because she has an orb change and that's it? No, not. But if you need someone to fill a gap, then she can work. I would not use her over Water Rimuru if I needed a dedicated blue orb changer. But I would use her over Misery or Ogre's Pride Hakuro. So, I mean, that's something. She's okay. She's not terrible, but she's also not super great either. So, middle of the pack for Ritus, I think, is a fair placement for her. All right, moving on to the battle units. First, we'll start with the skill fusions, which we actually have to start with Christmas Shizu, who currently resides up in the B tier. The fire attack and with the fire resistance down, that's why she's in B tier. It's like it's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. And then her second skill is the Pierce and AoE, which at before the skill fusion was, it was small, very small buffs. Now 40% AoE resistance down is huge. So I'm actually going to move her up into the decent but limited tier. Her fire buff is limited because it's only fire characters, but the AoE skill, like, we got a lot of AoE characters now. 40% AoE down is more than what Octagram Lumi does. And we know that once you add the 30% from Octagram Lumi, like, shit gets real. So, she gets upgraded. Also, I've been holding off on this, but Grim Rimuru is going to go up. His double skill fusions make him a much better unit than what he existed at the time. I don't think he needs to go up any higher than this, but because you still need a skill fuse him. He still needs to be level 100. You need the materials to do it. But objectively, his skills did improve him by a pretty decent amount. So he gets upgraded. Now, Wind Veldora, where was he? He was in the D tier of not great. So his skill fusion just enhances the pierce power down of the enemies. And an orb changer, you get an upgrade. A 1-tier upgrade. You're still an orb changer. Now you can protect against some of the bosses that have a lot of pierce more efficiently than, because this is like 15% down here, and this is now 60. Like, that's quite an incredible jump right there. So good for you. Velzard. Fire Velzard. Where were you? You're up here in B tier, can be helpful. She's gonna stay there for now. She is now a much stronger AoE nuking character. And she does now have a little bit of support for Festive Memories and Fire, giving them 30% physical attack. But I think she's a DPS character. And a lot of characters in this B tier are DPS characters who have either some or limited support capabilities. She'll be good in 6 days from now when she gets an EX upgrade, if she gets an EX upgrade. We don't know actually how they're implementing that yet still. But she'll be a good nuker, but I don't think it pushes her up into this high tier where she can nuke and give really good support. So we'll see how I feel after if she can EX upgrade and what her damage output looks like after that. And then we've got Idol Shuna, who currently is up in the A tier, decent but limited. She's old now. Double alt swap to greens. The synergy power got upgraded only a tiny bit from 40% to 50%, but you can now put it on magic or Festive Memories allies. So it means you can apply it to the physical Festive Memories units. It's not enough. It's not enough to bump her any higher. So did the skill get objectively better? Yeah. Is it enough to make me love her more? No. So she's going to stay at the A tier. If they had bumped it, if they had made it an unrestricted synergy buff and give it to like 60%, then she'd probably be like up here or something. Because she'd be a double ult swapper and she'd have a really unrestricted synergy power buff. But they didn't. So you get to stay in A tier. Alright, and finally the new summonable battle units, Momiji, Maribel, and Violet. We're going to go in reverse. Violet being a DPS character and then her alt swap limited to fire characters. It's not good enough. And then her first skill giving all physical allies attack and then the 120 skill points. Like, you're not going to use that outside of her team. It's not a very good kit to be called generic. So can she be helpful? Yeah. Can she nuke? Yeah, she's an AoE nuking character. Does that make her good enough to be up into these tiers? Like, if you're gonna build a nuking team for Jubilee, is she gonna work? Technically, yes. Is she gonna be like my top tippity top AoE fire nuking character pick because she has an 80% attack buff? No. So I'm sorry, Violet. Like, so this might piss some people off, but I just don't see it. She's an EX Unbound nuking character that's AoE. She's our first EX Unbound AoE character. That's great, but in most other settings, now that their meta is just about over, I don't want just a fire alt swapper. I don't want just an attack buff for physical allies that gives me extra skill points on teams that I probably don't need them on after this. So I don't see it. If we do end up using her more and more and more as the months go on, I will move her up. But for right now, she's not going very high. Now, the other two characters, Maribel, she's got the, what is it? The EX alt damage and then the weakness strike, right? Let me check that. Yeah, she's got the EX alt damage, and then if you remove barriers off of everyone, you get the extra weakness strike up to 150%. And then her second skill is the orb change that gives Festive Memories characters the barrier. No, not there. Yeah, you're gonna go into can be helpful as well. The orb change, yeah, that's cool. We got a lot of orb changers though. It only gives a barrier to Festive Memories, which is not a big team. And then her EX alt damage only works for EX characters who have EX alts. So other characters who don't have it, you're just like old 5 stars aren't gonna get it. And if you're an EX character who doesn't have an EX alt, it's not gonna happen. And if you don't have any barriers to remove, you're just not getting the other half of her skill, like period. Right? She can put a barrier on herself if you put her on the team. Like, okay, cool, yeah. Are you gonna do that 10 times to max out that weakness strike? Yeah, I don't really think so. So, I'm not overly impressed with Maribel either in future teams, and she works very well for this current team. She does because it's all about barriers. But if you take her away from Albus, like your kit gets infinitely weaker. So, and even then, like we're only getting an EX alt generally with Violet. Like that's one character on the team that's getting it. Like yes, it's the nuking character, but man, I'm not really impressed with her. And then finally we have Momiji. So the full orb change of oranges to blues, that's pretty good. That's what Commander Shizu does. And then her first skill is the alt resistance down and then and guaranteed pierce. So, I mean, that can be useful. I could find use for her on some other teams. So let's put her let's put her up in the S tier. Generic orb change, no limitations. That's good. Full hand of oranges, pretty good. EX alt down, or not EX alt down, but alt resistance down by a hefty amount. That can go higher. So like it starts at 120, it can go up to like 180, right? Read this again. Starts at 100 and then can go up to 180. So if you're going to take a lot of AoE alts, like 180% alt resistance down is really, really good because that's just essentially it's 180% alt damage, but on the other side. And then guaranteed pierce, like it's universal. If you need Pierce, then you got Pierce. So it works. I think she's the best character to come out of the meta, even though she's a support alt. She's got generic viability, and that's what I enjoy. She's not restricted to anything. I don't see any Festive Memories orbs or Festive Memories characters get the Pierce or something like that. She's good. Her kit is good, and I like it. She has none of this other bullshit where you're stupid point things or only festive units and all right. So that's the tier list for December of 2024. Let me know in the comments how you feel about these placements. Do you think I'm underselling these two down here immensely? Some people might say yes, some people might say no. Let me hear your comments down below. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.